Hey yo, it's Blue, baby. And you're now rocking with Blue Dope. Today's guest is none other than William Tyrone Toms of The Wreck. If you didn't hear about The Wreck yet, you must be under a rock, especially if you're anywhere in the Northeast. I mean, this brother's been on the Forbes 30 and the 30. He has a TED Talk. But, we're going to have the Blue Talk today, the Blue Dope Talk.
Let's go.
So it was good. I heard Philly's in the building.
Yo, Philly's definitely in the building, bro. I'm glad to be here, bro. Appreciate you
I,
having me.
I know you definitely Philly represents a lot of things for you, but I gotta get the Philly stuff out the way right out the gate.
Let's do it.
Best Philly cheesesteak.
Ishka Bibbles on South Street.
Ooh, okay. I'm going Max's. Ishka Bibbles is up there for me though, top three.
Yes, sir. Look, to me, it's Ishka Bibbles on South Street, or we at the corner store somewhere in North.
There you go. I feel you. Now the next one is State Prop or Dream Chasers.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. But just to throw it back, I gotta say State Prop, man. They were real foundational for me.
Yeah, no, yo, Beanie Siegel, it's funny, man. Beanie Siegel's in my top five, just period. He's not someone who gets mentioned in everyone's top five. For me personally, Siegel's just top five.
I respect that. I got to say, like, for me, Meek was someone I got to really watch grow. And I feel like I grew up with Meek, from Dirty Braids and all that. But I feel like the first time I really saw some folks that looked like me go and build something that I saw that I could respect, and I was like, they're doing it on their own terms. That was State Prop.
State Prop. So I got to ask, what part of Philly you from?
My family's from Germantown.
Oh, Germantown. So I know Germantown Avenue. What's the difference between Germantown Avenue and Germantown itself? Like, is that Old North?
Look, Germantown Ave is a long strip. There's Germantown Ave and Northern Liberties that go all the way up. But the part of Germantown that my family's from is like Wayne Junction, Wayne Avenue.
Got it.
It's a very little unique spot tucked uptown.
I mean, let's go early years. What was it like for you growing up just in the heart of Philly, and what did that mean to your journey in life?
Yeah, man. I mean, like most of us, bro, I started super humble beginnings, Germantown's one of those joints where it's like, it's uptown, but anybody who knows it well knows that the challenges of the inner city, are just as evident there as they are in North, as they are in parts of Southwest, you know what I mean? So I grew up, seeing a lot of things through the lens of my parents. I got a pops who's, been booked for the last 22 years at this point. You know what I'm saying? Pops, he been down for a little minute. He'll still be there, unfortunately, for a little bit. So I grew up watching that. I grew up watching my uncles who also, spent some time incarcerated, and because of that, I think it was one of those things where it was like, we didn't have a lot, but we had a lot of love in the crib still. Mm-hmm. My grandmother made sure that was what it was. But seeing
you basically grew up with your grandmother most of the time?
Yeah, I was raised by my grandmother just because of what my dad was going through. My mom also was really battling a drug addiction for most of my life. Wow. So my grandmother was really like my rock for real. And I think that all just informed who I was early, because art was my outlet to just understand it all. You feel me? So it was like snotty-nosed kid raised by my grandmother, trying to just navigate, growing up in the city. Yeah. Unfortunately, trying to like not go down the same paths that my uncles, my pops and all them was on, but still trying to make my own way, So it was a lot of just trying to create outlets for myself. And then over time, my grandmother was like, yo, we got to get out of this neighborhood if you're really going to capitalize on an opportunity. And then at that point, I was almost trying to figure out how to fight that culture shock of moving from the inner city, going to church in the city, going to school in the city, and then going to the burbs. Okay. It was a whole different element. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. Well, you like a fish out of water out there?
For a little bit, bro. But I feel like I quickly learned how to speak the language, how to really just understand how to move in a room full of folks who may not have understood what I was bringing to the table, who had prior conceptions on what it meant to be a young Black kid from the inner city coming out to the burbs, and, what I was there for. So I quickly understood how to disarm people with language. I quickly understood how to navigate,
Nice. Now, I mean, just going back to your parents, did you were you able to maintain a relationship with them even though they weren't nearby? Did you see them kind of growing up still?
I mean, it was hard, man. It was really hard because, for the context of my grandmother who raised me, right? Like my grandmother raised like 4 sons before me, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of
Mm-hmm.
which was murdered, by age
Wow.
16. All the rest spent a long time in prison. So like for her at that time raising me, and when I'm in middle school, high school, for real, she was scared anytime I was like, yo, I'm about to go back to visit the fam. I'm going back to the block. You know what I'm saying?
She's like, nah, no, you're not.
Right. She like, you gotta like, and I'm like, come on, like, so there was a little bit of that tension, but, obviously I made the space to see my mom when I could, when she was in position, for us to make that happen. And then my dad, I grew up, I was my grandmother's road dog, taking him trips across state to visit him.
Okay.
So that was just what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm no stranger to that. But I will say, man, it got more challenging, when I got into like the college years where it was like, it's just on me to make these decisions to really build this relationship. And to be transparent with you, it was one of those things where it was like the path I had chosen for myself. I didn't always feel that he could help me get there. You feel me? So I didn't really fully understand the value of really spending that time investing in that relationship until much later. But at this point, that's my guy. You know what I mean? We call me every week.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a very beautiful relationship. But there was a time where it was really challenging just because it was like, as an entrepreneur, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And for me, for a short period of time, not even short, for a period of time, it was like, yo, I ain't got time to be at the baby showers. I ain't got time to be here. I can't always sit down and write the letters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I had to kind of mature and really understand the value of that relationship. I'm really glad I did.
Now, I mean, for me, just growing up in Brooklyn with a single mother, there were points in my life where I had resentment to my father. So, I mean, did you go through that piece? Because for me, there was a period of time and I had to brush a lot of that off my shoulders to finally rekindle that relationship.
100%, bro. I think you hit it on the head, man. There was a lot of that. But I think when I was young, I didn't name it that. You feel me? It was just like,
you didn't know the label for it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I ain't mad at you, but I ain't nothing there for me. You know what I'm saying? But really that was resentment. Really that was anger. Really that was, senses of betrayal, abandonment, all these things. And it took till much later, when I really like invested in therapy and really wanted to do that work. And I was like,
I mean, therapy is a thing that, our community doesn't necessarily always, just embrace.
It's a fact. Yeah. But that's why I always share that part of my journey when I get the opportunity to, because it's the realest thing ever, bro. Like, you're talking to someone who spent my 20s building a 7-figure business with my best friends. And like, I'm proudly saying therapy was one of the most pivotal things that I did for myself. And mostly it's just because of the way we grow up, especially if you come from, a situation that you or I come from. We walk around with all these weights in our backpack, right? That again, if you don't have the language for, if the people around you don't really know how to address trauma and things like that, you don't even understand the emotions, much less control them. And if you can't control your emotions, 9 times out of 10, they're going to control you. So for me, it was one of those things where like, I had to look that in the face, because I'm like, I'm not just a freelancer doing my thing on my own. Like, I'm building a real team. I have real employees who are counting on me to show up consistently my best. And I can't do that if I'm not doing the work to really like bring my whole self to the space.
Got it. So that was a key piece.
Super.
I mean, let's go to the college years, right? Because you were at least able to, go to the burbs, kind of just assimilate and do what you had to do there. Where'd you end up going to school?
So for college, I went to IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Okay. And how far was that a trip for you? Were you staying local? Were you dorming?
Oh, yeah, that was a trip. So Indiana is out near Pittsburgh. So it's like 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. So it's a 4.5, it's a 5-hour drive. But that was a blessing though. You know what I mean? Like most of us, man, college was my first time really like on my own, figuring it out. You know what I mean? Like you got to navigate how you wanted to navigate, with that newfound freedom to a certain extent. And I used it for everything it was for, which in my mind was really about the social element, really figuring out how to get out here and network And I think college has a beautiful way of giving you a sample of what the world looks like, in a certain regard. And yeah, I was like super involved kid. You know what I mean? I always tell people I felt like I lived like 3 lives in college. You know what I'm saying? Like super involved academically, dean's list, and that was really important to me. But also super involved in my major. I was running the TV studio out there and producing shows. But also I was making money to just make it all possible, right? Because I had a scholarship throughout most of my college career, and then toward the end, it was important to be like, hold on, the numbers ain't numbering. So entrepreneurialism came out.
That was it. I mean, was that your first touch at media and being able to be hands-on with media, or where did that start?
Nah, that started young, man. I bought my first camera right after my 16th birthday.
Nice.
And it was a wrap from there. Like I was in high school, deeply in anything I could do to do a class project that could involve media. I was doing it. You know what I'm saying? We were doing science projects. Cool. I'm gonna make a video about this science experiment. You know what I'm saying? Because I was that kid who like grew up watching music videos and like,
true.
You feel me? So like watching what was happening on 106 in Park and watching just like that whole world in front of me, two things happened. I fell in love with the medium of just visual storytelling and all that.
Okay.
But secondly, I felt like early, I kind of had an inkling that what I was watching on TV had a big effect on how I saw myself. And I started to understand the power behind media, right? The power in owning and controlling the narrative.
Yes.
So after that, I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to spend my life. I didn't know what the model would look like, but I always knew I was going to build something in the media space. And, after internships and this and that, I got my opportunity to say, yo, let me just build this production company. And that's when it got real after college. But yeah, media's been a part of my life since early high school.
Now, I mean, when you bring that up, did you think there were a lot of negative images in the media? And I bring that up because I had interviewed Brandon Frame from The Black Man Can. And, he had this moment where he realized this from his following on social media and what he was looking at. He wasn't necessarily putting the most positive imagery into his head and his mind on a daily basis, which pushed him to create The Black Man Can. So, I mean, was it all negative stuff and you felt like you had to change that? Or what was that vibe for you? You just,
Yeah, in a way, for me, like I've always been a nerd, so I've really like studied the history of these industries, that are Hollywood, that are, the music business, et cetera. So it was really clear to me, okay, how come there's a lot of money out here and I see it because I go to this high school now where I see how these white kids is living, right? But also I'm noticing very clearly that a lot of the people around me ain't got none of it.
Yeah.
You feel me? So it was like, all right, well, how come the only people that I see with money are the people on 106 in Park, the people on TRL, et cetera? I'm like, hold on, there's got to be a disconnect. Because also I'm hearing all the stories about how these artists that I know are making the records that are, a part of our lives, right? The records that people out here, playing at the family reunions, at the cookouts, at the baby showers. But those artists who are making those records, a lot of them died broke, right? So for me, that was the thing. It was like, whoa, this is a disconnect. Like there's so much creativity and so much value being created, but how come like the people creating that value aren't owning it?
There was no reason that TLC dropped the Diamond album and they were driving RAV4s.
You gotta make it make sense, my guy. You gotta make it make sense. And then after seeing that, right, I jumped out in the industry. I was first, navigating as a videographer and then kind of playing like a pseudo management role for my homies who were rappers.
Nice.
And I could see how hard it was for artists to really do their thing. So that's when it clicked for me. I'm like, yo, there's a different way we could be doing this. And I think the internet is going to be a huge part of it.
So for me, myself, the story behind me and just Blue is I was a rapper like a lot of the kids in Brooklyn. And as a rapper, I saw both sides of what artists had to go through. And I decided to be parts of those different things. So I did the videography. From videography, I learned photography to the point where I did brand management, managed DJs, threw parties. And I am now podcasting. And what's funny is I I almost envy the fact that you were able to take these different experiences and create this bigger thing. And I think, but that's the beauty of it, right? It's having the mind to look at all these different things under all these different lenses and piece it all together. So I definitely want to jump right into the rec because it's a great segue. I mean, obviously, you didn't start the rec with no funding, right? Or did you? How did you even start the rec after finishing college?
Yeah. So first off, I left college at the very end, a semester early. And
So you left a semester early.
yeah.
So you were this close to the finish line and you were like, this not for me.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it wasn't a this ain't for me kind of thing. Cause
Okay.
I'm a kid who education is extremely important. So
Got
like
it.
I was in the books.
Yeah.
There were some challenges, you know what I'm saying? I was doing
Got
my
it.
entrepreneurial thing and it went left a little bit.
Okay.
I'll just leave it like that. And by the time I could go back, I was already finding so much success in my lane that it was like, this doesn't even make sense for me.
Wow.
Right? You
Wow.
feel me? But basically the way it started was I got home from college, and while I was at school, I'm already throwing parties, you know what I mean? I'm DJing, I'm throwing concerts. And at the same time, my business partner, Dave, he's at Temple throwing parties, throwing concerts.
Shouts to TU.
Yep.
I went there for a year, so I could clean Temple whenever.
Oh, wait, claim it. I can't really claim it, but it's like I've been throwing so many events there and been around the circles. They claim me.
I feel you.
But it was one of those things where as soon as I got back to the city, it was like, all right, Dave, let's go and let's mature this thing that has been happening in this basement. And let's take it to real venues. So we started the production company first, which was literally us just throwing shows and creating content for artists we cared about.
Got it.
And after throwing, like we were literally throwing 5 shows a week at one point.
That's crazy.
And we had full-time jobs at that point. So it was just grind.
What were you doing as a full-time job?
Oh, good point. So as a full-time, at that point, I got recruited to work at a marketing agency called Fame House.
Okay.
So Fame House is a really dope agency. They specifically do digital strategy and e-commerce for entertainment brands. So I'm a kid, again, I'm out here throwing parties around the city, don't got my degree yet, but I got headhunted to go in and become a digital strategist for this company. And they had me walking into a client roster of Ice Cube, Shady Records, Eminem. And they literally were like, yo, obviously you understand marketing. You're throwing these sold out shows around the city, right? But let's really like give you some real classical training on what digital strategy looks like at the highest level.
Okay.
And I was really grateful for that because it really unlocked my brain to the world that is now direct to consumer, right?
Now, at that point, did you work directly with any of these artists or anything? Or was it kind of like the agency kept the bar up between you and like a Cube or M?
So every client was different. For like an M, the most is you talk to Paul.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like
close enough.
Because Marshall is like,
he ain't dealing with that.
He's not doing that. But Cube would be on calls every now and then and things like that. Cool. So there was a certain level of access there. But my job was like, get these marketing campaigns cooked up and then, share them with the team who'll present them and things like that.
Nice.
But I'm learning digital strategy there. And I'm realizing like the power of skipping the middleman and being able to build a powerful brand, communicate it clearly online, engage your fans, and build revenue streams.
And what year was this, just for everyone to be clear on that?
Yeah, so this is like 2013 to like 2016.
So people starting to understand the space, the streams, people understand the streams a little bit better. Yeah,
but this is early in that era, right? This is definitely before Chance the Rapper really like waved the independent flag and people were like, okay, I get it. I can do this independent and still have a high level of success. Okay. Right. So let's say 2012 to like 2014, 15. Okay. That's probably more accurate. So anyway, I'm doing this, throwing shows, working full time at the agency. And it got to a point where 2 things happened. One, so many of the artists that we really thought were amazing, were killing it, they would get on stage, blow everybody away, and then they would leave and they weren't collecting emails. They weren't selling merch. True. Facts. They weren't doing the very basic things to do if you're really taking yourself seriously as a business. Right? It was basically, I'm hot, I'm gonna blow everybody away. But then 6 months later, those same people are like, yo, Will, it's been dope, but we're about to move to LA because we got to get to the next level. right? So the narrative kept becoming, you can't make it in Philly. You got to go to New York. You got to go to LA. You got to go to Atlanta. And at that point, I'm like, nah. I know too much. Like I'm working with an agency who is literally going on the internet, going direct to consumer. And we're building campaigns that are netting hundreds of thousands of dollars for these artists. And they don't even got to do nothing. Right. So like the idea of the internet was just destroying this idea that there was a certain place to win.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And secondly, I'm like, come on, this is everything we need is here in Philly if we really look for it. We just got to really know where to look. So that's happening. And I'm at the point in time where it's like, yo, like we could be way more valuable to these artists than just putting them on shows. Like there's clearly a disconnect between I'm talented and I have a clear understanding of what the business model looks like. So at that point, we stepped back and was like, yo, what can we do that could really change the game here and really like be valuable for people? And long story short, I had this epiphany, and it was like, bro, we need space, you know, because the way we were doing it, throwing 5 shows a week, Monday we at this dive bar, Tuesday we in South Philly somewhere, Wednesday we over here. But it was really hard to build consistent community when you bouncing around all these different places.
Yeah.
And in Philly, it's like, yo, it's resources here, it's studios here, it's venues here. But it's like these people hang out at these venues and have these resources. And they definitely don't talk to these people who hang out over here. And it's like, because of that, no one has everything they need. So our whole concept was like, yo, what would it look like if we found a space where we could build the studios, both for visual artists, for recording artists, but more importantly, we could program it and bring the industry experts in to teach us all really what it looked like to build a business around our passion.
Got it.
And that was the beginning.
So, I mean, was your concept, did you automatically think of like a WeWork type of scenario? Was that what you envisioned just for entertainment, or not really?
It wasn't in the beginning about WeWork, because at that time, like WeWork wasn't really the thing.
Got it.
I hadn't really spent that much time at WeWork. Like there were other co-working spaces that I had kind of like been in, but really what I was kind of inspired by was Uber, right? The fastest growing transportation company, and they owned no cars.
Yes.
Airbnb, fastest growing hospitality company. They didn't have to own any property.
Yep.
So for me, it was like, at what point is resource sharing, which is really what those models are, going to come to the entertainment industry, where instead of us playing this dog eat dog game of, I got these resources, can't tell nobody. It's like, no, let's build the resource network and allow whoever who understands how we move in to be able to tap in. So that was really the idea. So we wanted to build this creative space that you could be a member, and just like a gym, you come pay your gym membership, get access what you need. You get off the treadmill, someone else can jump on, right? You go to the gym because there's other people there who may know the right routine for you to do to get the results you want. Right. You go to the gym because there's a level of social accountability. You know, like the hardest thing about going to the gym is just getting there. Once you're there, you see somebody putting up 350, you see the shorty who on the treadmill. You're like, all right, I could get these sets off. You feel me?
So I mean, the whole idea with the rec, all the equipment's there. You just got to show up.
Everything is there. All you got to do is show up, ready to learn, ready to get after it, ready to collaborate, you know, with the right mindset, and you'll grow.
Now, I mean, just based on this idea of, okay, you have this, you want people to gain success from it. What has success of the rec looked like for you? And do you keep kind of KPIs in place to try to measure that success?
Oh, for sure. But, you know, success looks different for the business and for our members, right? Okay. But success for our members, for me, there was this like period where people didn't really know how to measure our success because the model is different than pretty much everything we've seen before, right? So folks is like, yo, who at rec got signed? Who at rec is doing? And I'm like, no, that's not the right. So for me, success is when a member comes to me after being a member for, 6 months, a year, and they're like, yo, Will, I did it. And I always know what they mean when they say that. What they mean is, yo, I just quit that bullshit job that I hated because now I figured out how to actually build a sustainable business model around my actual passion, my actual talent. So for us, it's about, people like Ben Thomas, who was one of our earliest members, still in his 20s.
He's an engineer, right?
Engineer, just got 2 Grammys the other night. You feel me?
Nice.
As an engineer.
Nice.
Right? Like, it's about opening these pathways to be able to do what you love to do and do that well, knowing that there's a network of like-minded people supporting you. The educational resources are there, the tools are there. But it's not about chasing the old success, which is the record deal or Hollywood. It's have you built an audience of 10,000 people who love everything that you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, have you been able to turn that into a real model for yourself?
So almost, if I could hear like the pitch for the rec, right? It sounds like, all right, that's a piece of it, but what exactly it kind of changes the mind frame of people when they step into the rec to realize that? And what do people typically come first for? Is it, hey, I want to be an artist, let me record here, and then they have to be exposed to these things? What's that pitch for the rec right there?
Yeah, so I think the best way I started explaining it, where people started to really get it, was when I started to use the gym membership analogy.
Okay.
Right?
Got it.
At Rec, man, it's an ecosystem that really exists just to make sure creatives can do more of what they love.
So once you're there, it's just going to naturally flow once you see everyone else doing these different things and you can connect with them.
And I would say it's like a gym where you get in what you get out what you put in.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of times, man, we grow up in environments where, like, a lot of the rappers I grew up with, their whole lives, they were conditioned to believe success was getting a record deal.
Yes.
Because it was like, all I got to do is rap. Everybody else is going to do everything else. But then you start getting people in trouble, TLC, you know what I'm saying? The list is long of people who didn't understand the business, and that came back to bite them. So 9 times out of 10, maybe not that high, but often people come for the tools, right? The studio is fire. I just want to get in and do this because I'm hot. But then when they catch the vibe of the culture of the space, the community of the space, people tend to tell me, like, yo, like, first off, just being in this space has expanded my mind to what's possible. Right? It's because the feeling in the industry, man, like, the industry doesn't have the reputation of being the friendliest place. You feel me?
True.
So when you come into a space where, like, there's real community, not just, we say community because we all work out of the same spot, but, like, nah, people are genuinely trying to be helpful. People are genuinely understanding that your success can be wrapped up within theirs and they don't lose nothing, right? That's what I think really gets people to want to stay. Because it's like, just because I'm out here as an independent artist, don't mean I got to literally do that alone.
Yeah, no,
myself.
100%.
You feel me? So they come for the tools mostly, but then they stay for the education, they stay for the community. And I think the most successful members go on and really build that foundation of their business. And most of our most successful members, they get paid more from Rec through our agency than they even pay to be a member.
Wow.
Because while they're in the gym, putting in their work, getting the reps in, they're learning, they're becoming more professional. We built an agency that literally exists to create paid opportunities for our members.
Nice.
So, over the last few years, we've been able to pay out almost $2 million directly in the hands of independent creators.
Wow.
Because of the model that we've developed.
And how many members do you have now?
Right now, we're at about 1,100 active members.
Wow. So 2 million amounts. That's not a bad split. I know obviously not everyone's getting the same cut.
Definitely not. Definitely not the same cut. But.
So let's talk about the agency part, because I think that part is definitely a nice bolt on, if you would call it, to have there. What does the agency look like, and what does the agency specialize in? I mean, you mentioned it's basically trying to get the value and the revenue streams in, but what key areas?
Yeah. So the 3 sweet spots for our agency are digital storytelling. So content creation, whether that's documentaries, commercial work, photos, whatever. Secondly, just straight talent booking, right?
Okay.
Yo, I just need an artist for this project I'm working on, or I need a performer for the holiday party, whatever that looks like, concerts, etc. And then the third part of it is event planning, right? So we do, real life or digital or virtual events. And that's like top to bottom, right? So we're doing all full production, right? We're doing the talent, we're doing the stage managing, we're doing all of that. And when we land those contracts, we literally go right into our community, and a member of our community, like a photographer, can literally pick up the Rec app, and be like, oh, snap, there's 12 different gigs happening this weekend that I can apply to be able to take.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So the idea of waking up and seeing paid opportunities that you would not have otherwise even known were happening, it's
Mm.
democratizing opportunity in a way that we haven't seen in our industry before,
Wow.
you know?
Now, I mean, is that exclusive now to only Philly? And I mean, I know you have aspirations of taking the rec everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Is that limited to local? And then can someone get agency services without having to physically be a member of the rec?
Yeah. So I'll answer the last part first.
Okay.
So if you hit me up, excuse me, and you're like, yo, I'm about to be in Philly for this or that thing or anywhere in the region, and I just need a couple shooters to do this and editors, yada, yada, yada. As a client, you don't need to be a member of Rec.
Got it.
But when we fulfill those services, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to hire members of Rec to fulfill that work, right? That's what it's all about. It's all about feeding our ecosystem, right? But no, man, I don't think we've just solved the Philly problem. And I think there's communities around the world who need a model like this to really be able to maximize what's happening there. So for us, man, I'm super excited. We're about to go and open up our second location. We'll be open in Miami, Rec Miami this year.
Congratulations.
Which is super exciting. Thank you.
Nice.
And like you alluded to, man, I see our vision as we'll have 50 locations around the world, because I think it's special to be able to say, yo, I could build my business from my hometown, right? And I could build my following online. Mm-hmm. That's dope.
Yeah, facts.
But the next piece is I got to be able to go and touch the people. I got to go tour. I should be able to travel the world, again, knowing there's like-minded people waiting for me in that city. There's resources and tools there. I ain't got to try to find a CD studio and hope people not trying to get over it, right? All that. And there's real collaborators there. And you know that if they're a Rec member, there's a certain ethos, there's a certain place they're coming from, a certain heart space, because they're a part of something that's bigger than them. And that's what it's really all about. It's, I hope it's a mindset shift that's going to come from this new tool that we've been able to present to folks.
Now, I mean, outside of just the weather and how beautiful Miami is, why Miami before other cities? What made you choose that? And not to say, hey, these aren't cities that are next on the table, but before Detroit, before St. Louis, why Miami?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for why Miami. I think the main ones for me are, I really wanted to go to a city that was similar to Philly in the sense that there was a high amount of talent and a high amount of culture, but a low level of industry infrastructure in certain ways, right? Wow. And I think Miami checks that box. I even think of Detroit, right? A Chicago, a lot of these cities check that box. But the one thing that Miami has that, and this is as a diehard Philly lover, one thing Miami has that Philly doesn't is Miami is really a world-class city when you think about the visibility it has on the world stage.
Yes.
I know that I'm building an international model. Nice. And I know that being in Miami is going to be very helpful in bringing the people who are going to walk into Rec, because they heard about it or whatever, and they're going to be very excited to want to take it back to where they're from. Nice. So I think Miami is really smart because, again, it's high talent, high culture, low industry infrastructure. But if I'm being honest, also like the local government there is very friendly to startups. Okay, the local government there is, well, one, friendly to businesses. The taxes is amazing. But after that, man, it's also like they understand and respect culture there. And that's really important to me. And we can get into it deeper, but it's just like, man, it meant something to me that I could walk around in a city like Miami in the mayor's office or in Atlanta. And I was looking at people of color who had actual power.
Got it.
That ain't
representation matters.
Yeah, it ain't like that in every city.
Yeah.
But those are some of the reasons. But really, it's about, they have a lot of amazing talent there, and I know that the model is going to lend itself well. And then the final thing I'll just say is we also have a really amazing investor that we've partnered with for our expansion. And soon we'll get to share who that is. And he has a deep affinity for Miami that also made a lot of sense in the grand vision.
No, very nice. I mean, I think that part of it's important. And I think a lot of our listeners are whether they're entrepreneurs already or aspiring entrepreneurs trying to venture out into their own business, that piece of it's important.
Mhm.
So just speaking about funding, right? I'm going to go back to that because it sounds like you started very small. I understand there was a couch involved in the story. And I want to know just that journey financially of when you realize, I made the right choice. This
Mm,
was a good decision. I can provide for myself with this. I want to hear about that financial part from you.
sure. I mean, look, before I got to that point where I realized I made the right decision, there was a lot of long nights, early mornings, and a lot of challenges, man.
Yeah.
Like, again, I come from humble beginnings. So, like,
Yes.
not only do I not come from a family of business owners,
Mm.
I definitely don't come from a family of people who know what it looks like to raise venture capital. You feel me? Like, and it's funny because like in VC and like in just like the startup world,
Yeah.
when you go raise money for the first time, traditionally they're like, oh, that's your family and friends round, right?
Okay.
Where
Okay.
you just gonna go hit up the homies, you're gonna hit up your
No.
family, they all
Yeah.
gonna give you a couple $100,000. There was
No.
none of that for
No.
us.
Series A are strangers at that point.
Super,
Yeah.
So there was none of that family and friends round stuff, man. Like I can't overstate just like how it was just, yo, we're gonna get this out the mud and we're gonna reinvest every dollar we can just to get the smallest possible version of the product to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we did that for years in a warehouse in North Philly. And, most of that journey building while we were there in that space, like you were alluding to, even our members didn't know, but I was living in that warehouse.
On the low, just
Straight up. Like
where'd
we
you
had,
shower, bro?
yo, it was nuts. They had a shower in the basement, but like
You used
every
to
other
sneak
week
down
that
there.
joint was broke. I was at Planet Fitness. Like just, I got this membership really to just hit the shower. Like,
That's funny. That's genius though.
bro, it's real. You get real creative when you ain't got it, man.
I'm not gonna lie. I was sharing a story with my engineer my producer that I used to have an audio engineer when I was an artist. That my man's lived in the studio. He was in a warehouse in a studio in North Jersey. My problem was eventually he just dipped. He disappeared, and I think he went back to Texas. So that was. I
That's
used to think,
crazy. I
yeah.
hope man's is good,
I
man.
hope so too, man.
But I get it. I get it. And it was one of those things where we were reinvesting everything we could in the business and the business was growing. At that point, we had gotten to, over 350 or so members in the warehouse.
And this
Right.
is in a much smaller space at this point.
Oh, yeah. The whole space, literally, we started in one room that was like 600 square feet. Over time, reinvesting. By the time we got to the end of our journey at the warehouse, we had like 6 or 7 rooms,
Wow.
but the whole footprint was like 2,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, how much you know about like the Philly rap early? Like you remember like Joey Jihad and like Meek Mill, like in that era, the DVDs?
Yeah.
Where our studio was, I don't know if you ever saw, man, I hope Hattie's good, but the spot where Joey Jihad got knocked out at, I don't know if you remember that video.
I don't remember that
Okay,
one.
all right.
But that's
it's
where
a
you
legendary video, infamous.
Our Philly listeners will know where it is.
Don't
So
know. That's where we was at. We was right there at 9th and Dolphin. Literally, First time I saw the building, I was like, where I know this from? But yeah, man. So we were stugging out there, and once we got to a certain spot where it was like, yo, we ain't got no heat, no AC, but it's a Friday night, and I got a full house in here because everyone's here for this panel, and we gonna sweat it out learning.
Wow.
I was like, yo, there's something really special here, and we're not gonna get this to the level that our members deserve in a short enough time, doing it the way we're just reinvesting, and that's when we decided to raise some capital.
Nice.
Which was extremely challenging at first. But after we did it and we cut that ribbon and I saw the looks on the faces of members, I saw how my staff reacted when we were able to finally pay them full salaries and full benefits. Wow. That's when I knew I was like, I absolutely made the right decision.
Now, I mean, we spoke about members, but how big is the staff even right now, then and then right now?
Yeah. So when we were in the warehouse, there were 6 of us.
Okay.
And that was, most of folks were either volunteers or I was like, yo, I got a couple $100 a month. Like it was just off the passion, people wanted to be there. And I credit Dave and I's leadership to that, as well. But now
you're in Center City.
Now we in Center City in the mall that I grew up in, what I'm saying?
Which mall?
In the gallery.
You're in the gallery?
Yeah, bro. I have 10,000 square feet in the gallery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Are
bro.
there still stores in the gallery?
Yeah, but they done redid it. They put
That-
about $500 million and flipped it into
wow.
some dope high-end stores and
Yo, no,
experiential stuff.
the gallery was my hangout when I didn't feel like going to Cherry Hill when I was
Yes,
at
sir.
Temple.
Yeah, so that's right where we're at, man.
Wow.
And we got about there's about 24 of us on the team now.
Wow. Dope. That's dope,
Yeah.
man. Now, a lot of positivity in that. I definitely know in the recording space, and you could not always pick who comes to record and take part. Did you ever have any crazy situations in studio outside of just the family type of culture field that was there?
No,
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 beautiful.
bro. And that's what I'm most proud of. Like
Yes.
throughout this whole journey, man, again, like we're introducing this idea of like resource sharing, right? Like
Yeah.
I got all the studios and like, again, just to put it in context, right? This was at the time where it was normal for people to pay 50, 60, $70 an hour to record at a studio.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be an artist, you know how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
When we were in the warehouse, people were paying $40 a month to have access to studio time, right? So we flipped the model on its head and people were like,
How
this
you
is
guys
too good
making
to be
pennies
true.
on the
You feel
yeah,
me?
yeah.
But again, like it's a whole different model because it's like
Wow.
when you get that studio time, it doesn't come with someone else's time. You get access to the space. So you could bring your homie here, but you know, we might have equipment that's a little further along than what you have at your
Yeah,
crib,
yeah.
right? It's a resource sharing thing.
So you bring your own engineer with you. Is
Yes,
that or
or
you
you
could
open the app and connect with one of the
nice.
60 engineers in our program, right?
And you gotta do the album cover. There's a photographer on site.
I type
Music video right there.
photographer, and I got 70 people who come up, right?
Wow.
And that's the level of efficiency that it's about building.
And then it's
But
about just booking the space and making sure it's available, the time slots.
exactly.
Okay.
So when we started doing that again at 9th and Dolphin in North Philly, the fact that we were where we were, not any members or anyone just from the neighborhood, like we have no problems, bro.
Wow.
Not one reported theft, not one instance of somebody mixing in the studio. Like, nah, like
Everybody knew we need this.
exactly. And there
Don't
was a
mess this
high
up. We need this.
exactly. There was a high level of respect for what we were doing, for the community. And it's like it's a little different when you run your own mom and pop studio. That's dope. If somebody does you dirty, they ruin the relationship that y'all have.
Yeah.
But when you start to think about the ecosystem we've built, the community we've built, if somebody come in wilding out, they didn't just burn the bridge with me. They've kind of burned the bridge with the community. Right? And that level of accountability is the same thing that took us from don't get in the car with strangers to now I get in the car with strangers every single day via Uber, right?
You just check their rating real quick.
Right. But what models like that and what models like mine do is we have an ability to be able to scale trust.
Yes.
You feel me?
Yes.
So it went from, oh, I'm from North, so I'm not collabing with the rapper from Southwest to no, now we all rec members. Let's get busy because we all here for the same thing.
Wow.
You feel me? And that's the culture that we've been able to
Is there
build.
a rating system in the app?
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
There you go. There you
Absolutely.
go. Give this engineer 5 stars.
Right. Real
Nice.
talk. Real
Nice.
talk.
So, I mean, you got Miami on the horizon.
Yep.
What's next after Miami? Because you said international. So if you could name an international spot that's piquing your interest right now, where would that be?
Man, I'm trying to go back to the motherland, bro. I want to put Rec Accra on the map.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? I would love to see what's going on in Brixton over in London.
Oh, yes.
Rec London, Rec Tokyo. But before we go there, Rec San Juan. And before we go there, you know what I'm saying? We got to do Rec Atlanta. We got to do, Rec Houston, Rec Austin. I want to do Rec LA. So it's really going to be a few phases. But after Miami, we want to be very aggressive, because I know that the time is now. And I feel like the world is catching up to what we've always known to be true, which was that the creator economy is where it's at and where it will be.
I mean, what's really interesting about that is that there are a lot of fields that people just feel are oversaturated.
Yeah.
Right? There are too many rappers. There are too many photographers. There are too many models. There's too many this. You've kind of flipped that.
It's not true. It's not true. it's, to me, it's just
elaborate on that, because I want to hear it from you.
Yeah. So look, if we talking about the old model, right, which was, we got to hope the label is going to pick us up, validate us, and tell us that we're hot, and then value our music and decide whether or not my album gets released, and then tells me how much of that money I deserve to have. Then it could be too many rappers, because not everyone can get picked.
True.
Right?
True.
But in the new model, there are 8 billion people on the planet. And if you convince only 1,000 of them, not 100,000, not 1,000,000, but if you can get 1,000 people who truly love everything you do, what you're about, what you stand for, at that point, all you got to do is figure out how you can give enough value to those 1,000 people that they want to give you $100 this year. And you can easily do that. Shows, merch, exclusive content, meet and greets, like you can get so creative with what that looks like. So the fact that success no longer needs to be, I'm a household name. Success can be, I got 1,000, 3,000, 10,000 people who love me. You can win.
I'm no mathematician, but that was 100 grand right there real quick that you just put out there.
Right. And to most people, that's a very good living.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, when you think about it that way, there's too many rappers, because the way you rap, what you rap about may not speak to the next person.
Yes. But
I know that, they'd be like, I'm a 1 in a million kind of person. Just by the numbers, if you're 1 in a million, that means there's 8,000 people on the planet who are exactly like you.
Wow.
Just by the numbers.
Wow.
And what we teach is, here's how to use this thing to get to them.
To get to it. See, so I'm going to go back to just this question. So, I mean, me being in New York, can I become a member of the REC to take advantage of some of those services just out the gate?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got members right now in Baltimore, tons of members in Jersey, members even in DC who just come up once a month to just get busy in the podcast studio, do whatever they got to do, and then go back. So short answer, absolutely.
And I'm thinking out loud here. I'm just like, shoot, I'm a photographer. If someone rolls up to New York, I'm in the whole vibe. Like someone could, boom, I'm gonna hit Blue up. Get this photography
100%.
going.
100%.
Nice.
Let's make that happen, Blue.
I'm already thinking out loud right here. And I know all the listeners will be too. I mean, to go back to family life, right? Yeah. Is grandma still around, and what is her thoughts on her baby boy doing all this stuff?
It's crazy, man. She's really proud, bro.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes me super happy. She ready for that crib now. It's time to buy grandma my house soon.
There you go.
Feel me? But it's like, man, there's been certain milestones as of late that, like, I'm not going to say were surprises, because like my grandmother has always been in my ear of like, yo, you could do whatever you want to do, right? Type vibe. But like when I get to do things where like I'm speaking, alongside Damon John at the Apollo Theater.
I love Damon John.
Yeah, that's my guy, man. Shout out
Nice.
Damon.
Nice.
But being able to like speak alongside Damon at the Apollo Theater, my grandmother in the front row, like those are the moments where she's just like,
epic.
You did it. You feel me? And so that's what it's all about, bro. At this point, it's like we gotta put grandma up and really give her what she deserves for how much work she done put in, No,
1,000, 10,000%.
It's facts. I'll tell you this. I felt like my entire career, she always supported, but I didn't know she always understood exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. But she just believed in me. But the energy shifted when she saw the name in the Forbes list. You feel me? The energy
like, you in Forbes.
And not in a weird way, but she was just like, wow. She's like, I don't gotta get it, but clearly it's working.
It's there. It's there.
You feel me?
Now, I mean, clearly, I would say what you've done in creating accessibility for your hometown is giving back to the community in itself. Outside of the REC, how do you get involved right now with the city of Philly?
Man, that's everything, bro. I serve on a number of nonprofit boards. Nice. All of which are really about making sure that young people have access, right? Whether that's fighting food insecurity. One of them is a urban farm. I sit on the board of a farm nice. Blocks away from the old warehouse where we started.
Because Philly's probably considered a food desert.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really important. So being able to support the farm and show people that, yo, like, where you from, you could learn how to grow food right in this land and be able to cook it up and eat healthy and all that stuff. There's that. So I do a bunch of board service, but the things that I do that I'm most proud of is, we built this model for rec, which is beautiful. But when we teach our members the curriculum of how to build their business, we pay our members to go into high schools and community centers to pay it forward and teach the next generation. Right. Wow. So that's really like where it's at for me. Cause it's like, if someone came into my high school who looked like me when I'm in 9th grade and taught me about ownership, taught me like, yo, I ain't got to go and put the tie on and talk weird, to get the money and all that. It's like, oh, all right, well, I'm over here with it because I've always been talented, know? So we get to do things like that. Currently really proud of an agency project we're doing right now where we've engaged the city of Philadelphia has hired us to consult with them. So we're going to be building satellite rec campuses in neighborhood around the city, which is super powerful.
Government funded.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. Beautiful. Like, how in Philly, I don't know if it's the same in New York, but in Philly, every neighborhood got a basketball court, and next to the basketball court, there's a building, right? A little community center.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are about to transform our first couple this year into satellite recs, essentially into like business incubators. So we're going to identify some of the entrepreneurs that are in these neighborhoods and then fund them to build out whatever their business is, give them mentorship and teach them whatever they need to really perfect the model. And then they'll be able to do that and also run youth programming in these community centers. So for me, it's about how do I create that same level of access and opportunity to the young people who, if we don't grab soon enough, I already know what it looked like as the alternative. You feel me?
100%.
So I spent a lot of time doing stuff like that. Then there's like the big cleanup, there's a lot, but that stuff is like so near and dear to my heart that like, it's all good. It don't feel like some extra thing. Like that's just what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's how I feel.
For the young wills that are out there that need those opportunities, that need that vision.
Straight up, bro.
Now, I mean, with all the stuff that you're doing, I ask this question a lot to entrepreneurs. How do you turn it off every day? And what do you do for your own self-care?
Yeah, I'll be honest, bro. I'm just now finally figuring that out. Dead ass.
I hear that too often from entrepreneurs. It is what it is.
Look, man,
working hard.
On one hand, it's like I want something most people don't have, so I got to do what most people won't do. But then as I get older, I just hit 30, so like now it's like, all right, hold on, self-care, because I gotta be at optimum output.
Yes.
For me, I'm learning that travel really, really like fills my cup. During the pandemic, I learned about how amazing Puerto Rico was. Nice. So I'm good for a quick getaway. Catch me meditating by a waterfall somewhere in El Yunque, you know what I mean? And then in the short like spans, I'm an avid, meditator, I'm gonna make sure I get the meditation in if I don't do nothing else. I'm gonna get the prayer in. Okay. And for me, like what inspires me is really just like those real conversations with the people around me and we could really just dig into what's the world we want to live in. You know what I mean? Let's kick it and chop it up about that and things that we know can be impactful.
How do you handle relationships, whether it's romantic or just even keeping friends with your work schedule?
Yeah. Look, I'm in a relationship now and I'm very grateful. My queen is amazing. And this is probably the first time that I could say I really, really have been treating my relationship the way it should be treated.
There you go.
That's
that 30 hitting.
You feel me? The switch is real. But I'll be honest, man, before now, bro, and everyone has their own way to get to their end goal. But for me, I think you have to be real with yourself that you could do whatever you want to do out here. You can accomplish whatever, but you also have to be real with yourself that some things got to be sacrificed, So for me, like, I never really took dating that serious until now. Cause it was like, yo, I know what the priority is.
Yeah.
Straight up. And then on the friendship level, it was like all my homies are trying to build something, you know what I mean? So it's like, for the most part, those are the people I'm choosing to spend my time around because those are the people who like understand me. You know what I mean? And like at a certain time, it's like you got to, again, respect the truth, which is, you are who you spend your time with.
Now, I'm gonna ask you a deep question here. Now, just in regards to your upbringing and even your parents, does that ever put fear in you now when it comes to building and creating your own family?
There's what exactly?
Thus, them not necessarily being there for you, or that situation not really working.
That's a beautiful question. For me, man, I'm such a big advocate of mental health and therapy and things like that, because I think it's important for me to do those things to break that cycle.
Yes. Yes.
The reason why I never really valued a relationship is because I knew that I wasn't ready to build a family.
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't ready to be a father. I wasn't ready to be a partner. So it's like, I'm not even gonna fake the funk, right? So I'm gonna put everything into what is really important to me, which is building something that's gonna help change the world in the way that I see it. Build something that's gonna build some generational wealth. So that way, like when I do build a family, I can actually
they good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I saw it, but it's important to not pass that trauma down, and if we're being real, a lot of times, like, we start families before we really have our foundation laid.
Facts.
And then that just perpetuates the cycle. So for me, it was like, yeah, come on, we can hang out, but like, you already know, like, I gotta go because business is business and business is business. Like,
I mean, we didn't talk about it, but did you kind of regain your relationship with your birth mother?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And for me, it's gotten to the point of maturity where it's like, we have a decent relationship, but I finally come to find peace with, like, it is what it is, and I don't want it to be what it's not. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes when, like, you have a strained relationship with a parent, it's like you still long for it to be something that it's not, right? Like, but for me, we got to a place.
Face value.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I don't need it to be anything other than that. I love my mother. She is amazing. Nice. She is a joy to be around.
Nice.
But also, I know that there's things that I can't go to my mom for. Just to be real, you feel me? Like, and we've built that relationship where it's like, yo, like, I'm proud of both of us.
Yes.
Real talk,
Dope. Very dope. Yeah. Now, without showing too much favoritism, I want to end off with just coming out of the rec, right? The rec Philly, rec Miami's on the way, but the rec Philly, who is, I'm going to go with two things near and dear to me.
Sure.
Well, number one, artist. I'll be free, whether no genre, any genre, right?
Okay.
Your favorite artist that we need to look out for that's just been killing it out of the rec. And then also the best podcast, your favorite podcast. Without too much favoritism, if you don't want to say one, give me a top 2 or 3. But I need a few joints that our listeners will be like, all right, I'm gonna check it out because this man who built the rec says they're gonna be hot or they're hot now.
Man, yo, that's super hard, bro.
I'm putting you on the spot, bro.
You making me play favorites for real, bro.
1,000 members, right. But I'm
it's a lot. It's a lot of amazing talent.
1,100, but I'm restricting you right now. Top 3.
All right, so I'm gonna start with the podcast first.
Okay.
So I just recently did one, so it's a little bit top of mind. We have a member named Nate Evans Jr. who has a podcast called Change What We Normalize. And he's just a super good brother, does amazing work. So I'm gonna say that's one of my favorite podcasts.
Nice.
And then also I'll say Marquise Devon.
Okay.
He's dope. Marquise Devon Richards. He has a couple podcasts that are all dope. He's his whole thing is like connecting the hood to like the scholar community. And he's someone right in between it and really tackles a lot of beautiful issues for our people in a way that he makes them beautifully plain so folks can get clear and then activate. So I'm gonna say those two for the podcast front. And then let's talk artists, man. There's so many. There's literally like, I got bands in my mind. So I'm gonna take an easy way out, and I'm gonna say there's a poet that I'm gonna say who I think is really, really special. I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
Luis Marrero.
Okay.
Beast. We actually have a live at Rec. We do this live performance series on our YouTube, so you can go check that out. Luis Marrero, nice. Live at Rec. and Visionary the poet. Both of them are phenomenal.
Nice.
Phenomenal poets.
And my last question of the evening is, I definitely wanted to be on Rockefeller growing up. Did you want to be on State Prop? Was that your dream? Was that your original dream?
It wasn't State Prop. It was just like yours. I was trying to be on Rockefeller too, bro.
Okay.
Come on, like
there you go. You wanted the single deal. You wanted the State Prop jeans yourself. You wanted your own joint, the rec jeans.
Me? I had the S dots on and all that. So I'm like, all right, like
pro kids.
Give me the chain. When is chaining day, man?
There you go, man. But yo, it's been real, man. You always had an affinity for Philly, so I'm definitely I want to come down and check out the rec because I can't imagine it being in the gallery, and I think that's beautiful that you were able to take that space and do something more and different. So much success to you. Obviously you've hit a lot of pinnacles already, so we're definitely looking forward to seeing what you're gonna do next, Will. But yeah, Will, man, for all the listeners out there, I just wanted to know, where can they find you? Where can they find the rec? Yeah. And, I heard you might have something else in the works real quick that we didn't even get into, but what should they look out for?
Well, look, if you want to keep up with my story, my journey, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And the website as well is The Will Toms, THE, Will, my last name, TOMS. So follow me on the gram and do all that. And yes, man, I'm really excited. I actually have my very first book coming soon.
Nice.
It drops on Friday, May 6th. Pre-orders going on in a couple weeks, very soon. And what it is, it's called Uncommon Sense, Your Strategy Guide to Creative Freedom. So for everyone out here who's a creative, you're trying to figure out how you can build a passion or build your business from your passion. That's what it's all about. So after talking to thousands of creatives over the years, I've been able to really distill it down to the 10 ideas that we need to really understand how to build that sustainable business so we can get to creative freedom and live how we're trying to live out here. So check that out. That's coming out on May 6th. But again, The Will Toms on Instagram is where you can find me, and then just Rec Philly on everything.
I mean, your TED Talk with one gem was a lot. So for you to go into 10 topics,
yes, sir.
Looking forward to it.
I appreciate that, brother.
But yo, it is what it is, man. We looking out for that book. Pre-orders as soon as they come out. Look out for it, everybody. It's Blue Dope. Peace.